Islamophobia now is a part of our psyche. Words such as Arab and Muslim are perceived as threatening words. And if the words are threatening, what about the images that we see in the cinema and on our television screens? We are at war with Iraq. We went to war in March of 2003. But didn't our entrance to the war, wasn't that made a lot easier, primarily because for more than a century we had been vilifying all things Arab? And now, given what happened with 9/11, the tragic events that took place on that day where 19 Arab Muslim terrorists were responsible for the deaths of nearly 3,000 people, now, instead of saying that's the lunatic fringe, we say, no, 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 no. The actions reflect the actions of 1.3 billion people. Now, that's dangerous. We don't say that the actions of Ku Klux Klan members, who are Christians, represent Christianity, do we? Look at Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh, a good Irish Catholic boy. Do we say all Irish Catholics are terrorists? No one knew McVeigh's religious beliefs, where he went to church, or his ethnic background. It was not part of the story. Yet, of course, had that been an American with Arab roots, or an American Muslim, it would have been a part of the story. Remember that when news of the bombing broke, reporters and politicians, nearly everybody, rushed to judgment, without any proof whatsoever.
A U.S. government source told CBS News that it has Middle East terrorism written all over it.
The attack in Oklahoma City appears to have a familiar mark.
This was done with the attempt to inflict as many casualties as possible. That is a Middle Eastern trait.
The fact that it was such a powerful bomb in Oklahoma City immediately drew investigators to consider deadly parallels that all have roots in the Middle East.
ABC News has learned that the FBI has asked the U.S. military to provide up to 10 Arabic speakers to help in the investigation.
The stereotype has become so widespread that it's become invisible to people, and the reason being is that we've all grown up with these images.
Do you know how many Muslims there are in the world?
I think there's about 1.5 billion.
Yeah. So I guess I ask you that question because that's a very big number. Why would you want to do this to 1.5 billion people, as you say, in the world by burning their most sacred book? That's crazy.
Well, for one thing, for us, the book is not sacred.
But it is for them.
By
it is
us
for them.
doing this action.
So if I don't,
us.
But I don't mean to interrupt. But you just told me something that's ridiculous. To you, it's not sacred. How about it's sacred to them? That's like saying I'm going to burn down your house because I don't like your house. It's not my place to burn down your house.
No, we're not burning down a house. And what we are also doing by the burning of the Quran on 9/11, we're saying stop. We're saying stop to Islam, stop to Islamic law, stop to brutality. We have nothing against Muslims. They are welcome in our country. They are welcome to worship. We have freedom of worship. We have freedom of speech. They are welcome. What is not welcome?
So
what we are saying with the burning of the Quran,
so how
what
would
is
you,
not welcome is Islamic law and
how
the
would
brutality of Islamic law. That is what's not welcome.
How would you feel if a Muslim said to you what you just said to them? I have no problem with you, Mr. Christian. You're welcomed in my country, but I'm burning your Bible. How would you feel?
I would not like it, but it's their right. We live in America.
Well, they live in
America.
America.
We want to make a statement. It is time to stand up and speak out on what we believe in.
But
we believe that Islam is of the devil, that it is causing billions of people to go to hell.
You believe
it is
that.
a deceptive religion.
You believe
it is
that.
a violent religion.
You believe that.
That is proven many, many times.
No,
and
because
it is time that churches,
there
politicians stand up and speak the truth.
There are moderate Muslims, sir, who live in this country, who love America probably every bit as much as you say you do. Some of them died on September 11th.
That is exactly right. There is moderate Muslims.
Why are you insulting them?
Jesus Christ is Lord. Every knee shall bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Jesus! That's right!
Oh, how Jesus loves you. Take some of them home with you.
What do you say, Michael, to a family member of someone who was killed at Ground Zero who says, you know, I don't really think this is appropriate? Look in the camera and tell us what you would say to that family member.
I would say that I completely understand how you feel. If a member of my family was murdered, I live in a nation where they would not allow me to sit on the jury. Yet common sense kind of says to me, well, who better to judge those who took my family member's life than the family itself to get retribution? But we don't have a system like that, do we? The reason we don't is because we have to separate the emotion from it, because sometimes if we just let emotion take over and run things, the wrong decisions get made. I went to Mass yesterday, Wolf. Do you think I'm a pedophile sympathizer? Should I be judged because some priests committed a crime against children? Do you think less of me because of that, or because Timothy McVeigh was a Catholic and blew up the Oklahoma City building? Should a Catholic church not be allowed anywhere near the Oklahoma City building because he was Catholic? I got to tell you, I remember the very first presidential election. I was 6 years old, John Kennedy versus Richard Nixon. And I remember, as 6 years old, hearing all this stuff about if Kennedy was elected, the Pope was going to run the country. And I remember feeling like there was something wrong, there was something bad about, why was I bad? Because I was Catholic. And this is our history, and we have got to stop this. And those of us who are part of the majority have to always stand up for the minority when they're being bullied by people who are using this issue for their own political gain.
What did you think of the way the president, the commanding general in Afghanistan, General Petraeus, the news media for that matter, handled the whole issue of that pastor in Florida who said he was going to burn a couple hundred copies of the Quran?
Well, it's never good to have our general saying that we're afraid of anything. I mean, I got a whole other thing about that. We could do that, take another show on that. I just think when you're talking about burning the Quran, let me just point out again to my fellow Americans, 80% of whom don't have a passport and never leave the country, never see the rest of the world, don't know anything about what's going on. You know, I've had the good fortune to be able to get out of here and see a bit of this planet we live on. The Quran has 25 different mentions of Jesus in that holy book. 25. They consider Jesus a messenger of God. Why would you burn a book that beautifully mentions Jesus at least 24 times? I mean, how many Americans even know that?
In many quarters, there is a desperate need in America today, in America this week, for a healthy dose of religious humility. There are too many people getting too much face time on television who claim exalted status for Christianity and who are demeaning other faith traditions, particularly that of Islam. And my friends, this has got to stop. The trigger for this latest wave of intolerance is media coverage, many of you have seen it, about a plan to build a Muslim community center 2 blocks from Ground Zero. The center will have a mosque, an auditorium, and a pool. It is modeled after YMCAs and Jewish community centers all across the country. For all I know, it's got locker rooms and childcare. Now, to be very clear here, reasonable, faithful, caring people can disagree about how they feel about this facility being built so close to Ground Zero. But that does not justify the wave of fear and suspicion that has washed over this country over the last 10 days. The media are now calling this a wave of Islamophobia that is sweeping across America. I saw a story this week on CNN about a minister in Gainesville, Florida, who has declared September 11th of this year Burn the Quran Day. Thank you for your reaction. That was mine. This guy is a minister at a non-denominational church called the Dove World Outreach Center. He said all kinds of disparaging, insulting, inaccurate things about Islam that I'm not going to repeat from this pulpit. His message is about hate and fear, and I can assure you there is nothing in the Gospels, there is nothing in the teaching of Jesus Christ that says anything about burning the holy texts of other traditions. It is not there. The proposed burning of the Quran is obscene. It is not the work of peace. It is not the work of understanding. It is not the work of building bridges. It is insanity. Now, the good news is there are a lot of groups, a lot of churches, even the National Association of Evangelicals, who are condemning this action and urging the church to cancel their event. A conversation about God demands grace and openness, a willingness to learn, to have our own ideas challenged, our convictions questioned. These are the hallmarks of humility. When I was in seminary, I read from someone whose name is lost to me now, when you speak of God, your voice should shake a little. You know, Jesus had no time for religious know-it-alls. He saved some of his harshest criticism for church leaders, for the Pharisees, the religious leaders who were so certain about who was out and who was in, who was holy and unholy, clean and unclean. Jesus was forever taking all this religious certainty and turning it on its head. And we can only imagine what Jesus would have said about Pastor Terry Jones and his Burn the Quran campaign. I think he would say, this has got to stop. Followers of Islam believe that the Quran is a collection of revelations received by the Prophet Muhammad from God about 1400 years ago. They believe that Muhammad was the last of a series of prophets and teachers and messengers that included Adam, Moses, Jesus, Abraham, all names revered by us as well. The word Islam means peaceful surrender to the will of God. The Quran was written at a time when the Muslim people were being driven from their homes, persecuted, and killed. The Old Testament was written at a time when Jewish people were being driven from their homes, persecuted, and killed. And religious scholars will tell you that most holy scriptures have stories of war and violence in them. Throughout history, most faiths have used these texts to justify violence. And if there's anyone in this room at this moment who's thinking that I've got it wrong, after church today, pull out your Bible and look up Psalm 137. And you'll see that our own text has passages that can make us uncomfortable. But also, like the Bible, the predominant message of the Quran is of peace and care and loving God, justice, care for the neighbor, care for the stranger. In the Bible, we have thou shalt not kill. In the Quran, we have whoever kills another, surely he is killing all of humanity. And whoever saves the life of another, surely he saves the lives of all humanity. These are words of peace, words of faith, words that could save the world if we would take them to heart. The second thing you can do, the next time someone sends you one of those emails demonizing Islam, delete it. Don't forward it. Don't participate in the stereotyping. Don't give in to your fear. It's okay to be a little afraid. We all have those emotions. Just don't give in to it. Don't sign on for it. Don't focus on this tiny group of extremists who commit acts of violence. Focus on the hundreds of millions of Muslim people in the world who are people of faith, whose priorities and concerns and families are not so different from your own. And third, when you think of Muslim people, think of individuals. Think of the professor at Ohio State. Think of the engineer at Honda. Think of the teacher at the elementary school down the street. When you think of Muslim people, remember those who died on 9/11, not the hijackers. There was only a handful of them. Remember Mohammed Sunhami Hamandi. He was born in Pakistan. He came to the United States as a small child with his parents. He played high school football. He went to college. He became a part-time ambulance driver. He died, this Muslim young man, on 9/11, trying to rescue people and save lives. When you think of Muslim people, remember Mohammed Salahuddin Cloudhurry. He was a waiter at Windows on the World, which was at the top of the World Trade Center. He died that day. His wife had their baby 2 days later. When you think of Muslim people, remember Rama Salih. She was a woman, 28 years old. Her neighbors described her as fun and outgoing and generous. And she died on American Airlines Flight 11, 7 months pregnant with her first child. Remember the founder of the Islamic Circle of North America, who worked in the World Trade Center and also died on September 11th. That same group now is giving away tens of thousands of copies of the Quran in response to the campaign about burning the Quran. In the language of their own tradition, they are spreading words of faith and peace and hope. One of the ladies at the 8:30 service this morning said to me after, maybe we should declare September 11th, buy a Quran and read some of it. It is for us to share our message of love and hope and peace, but let us do it with grace and respect and above all, humility. God grant us, as individuals, as a nation, as Christians, the humility for this work.